Thank you again to everyone for your participation today. One of the realities facing international enrollment teams, whether at universities, agencies, or partner organizations, is that fraud continues to evolve alongside global demand. We all know how critical integrity is to building trust and ensuring quality outcomes for students and institutions. But we also know that in a complex ecosystem with multiple stakeholders, there are bad actors who try to take advantage of systems, applicants, and even well intentioned institutions. From falsified documents to misrepresented financials, these activities not only create risk for institutions but ultimately harm students who are trying to pursue life changing opportunities. That's why the work of protecting the integrity of the enrollment process is more important now than ever. And there are tools and practices that make a significant difference. One of those is funds verification, a concrete, effective way to ensure that applicants have genuine financial capacity, protecting both the institutions and the students we serve. Today's session will dive into exactly how that works, why funds verification matters, what common vulnerabilities look like, and how applying rigorous, reliable tools can safeguard your enrollment pipelines. I'm honored to introduce a friend and a leader who has deep experience in international student recruitment, compliance, and building systems that support ethical practice across the sector. Cheryl brings extensive experience in admission strategies, risk management, and international enrollment operations. Her work spans supporting institutions to strengthen policies, implement best practices, and leverage resources that promote transparency and trust. Cheryl's insight today will help us understand not just the risks, but the solutions that help institutions operate with confidence. Please join me in welcoming Cheryl for this critical sessions on funds verification. Over to you, Cheryl.
Hello, thank you for joining us for FundsV's Fun Facts and Foresight around funds verification version 202602. I am Cheryl Darrett-Boychuk, your host. I'm with FundsV, and my experience in international education spans more than 30 years, starting actually in study abroad, then transitioning over to focus on inbound students to the US in the early 90s. I worked for the U.S. Education Journal, which was a spin-off of one of the original recruitment magazines, Study USA. Our claim to fame at U.S. Journal was that we insisted every campus advertiser purchase a full-page ad with response card, as we recognized how important tracking return on investment really was. So through one episode of serendipity after another, I ended up acquiring U.S. Journal in 2000, leaving its print publication and response cards to perish. But the imperative on ROI survived. U.S. Journal had no problem generating tens of thousands of inquiries across our 16 multilingual domains, but only a precious few actually enrolled. It will surprise no one that one of the primary barriers in that proverbial filter was finances. So how could we encourage those candid conversations earlier in the recruitment process to better be able to serve students and their families? That's where FundsV was born, in parallel with the global financial services trend toward open banking, where consumers have full control over their digital data, giving explicit permission about when to share it, who to share it with, and the right to revoke that access at any time. One of the highlights of my professional career came in 2018 with NAFSA's recognition of outstanding contributions to international enrollment management, largely for my work in measuring return on investment. So I continue that pursuit with FundsV as we advance global student mobility by improving efficiency and integrity around due diligence. So our first question addresses that integrity issue. What types of fraud are most commonly discovered in US-based international admissions offices? The data is pretty hard to come by, especially because it's just an unpleasant topic of conversation. Fraud has been getting more press, though, lately, as campuses really struggle with increasing volumes of applications, even as their yield shrinks. A few years ago, in advance of our 2024 NAFSA session, my colleague Dana Brawley at the University of Idaho conducted a small study to learn more. She found that about 56% of all suspected fraud in international admissions originated around financial documentation. That's significant, even from an anecdotal perspective. Personally, I'm surprised that transcripts had a dramatically lower figure. And that's probably because there are established systems in place for experts to step in, think ECE and similar credential evaluators, to review academic transcripts and authenticate the data, producing higher confidence levels in admissions colleagues. So services like FundsV can bring a parallel service to the financial documents phase. So name one difference between detecting financial fraud and academic credential fraud. Over the years, we found so many similarities between these two functions in due diligence in international admissions. Both sets of documents might contain forensic security features. Both can be easily purchased online, complete with fake seals and stamps. Some training is available to detect forgeries, though we see this more for academic documents than for financials. And I think we can agree that photocopies of both types of documents are least secure, while digital versions from the original source are the most secure. So one big difference between the two: global financial services have embedded long-standing standards. Think SWIFT, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications, that used to have a monopoly on cross-border wire transactions. So banks around the world have largely figured out how to standardize their plumbing thanks to know your customer laws and anti-money laundering guidelines. And while each jurisdiction has their own nuances, they all need to communicate pretty seamlessly. So we in international education can learn a lot from global financial services, but we're dealing with a far more precious commodity than currency. We get to work with students and their intellectual cargo, and that's priceless. I'd say it's actually easier to confirm financial data because honestly, there are far fewer sources of that data. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of banks, but not nearly as many educational institutions that issue academic transcripts. And that makes interoperability and sharing of financial data much easier across borders. So how do forensic features in authentic transcripts and bank statements ensure document integrity? Of course, these features are constantly changing, for example, with biometrics, which I personally find creepy. Turns out all of them, in part with the help of artificial intelligence and machine learning, which can quickly detect anomalies, create digital footprints, and even figure out what software, if any, was used to manipulate the document. It's all pretty fascinating. Part of our job is educating users about these processes to give qualified, genuine students the best chance to elevate their applications. So what counts as corrupting bank-generated digital statements, which would likely prompt a red result in FundsV? Printing, stamping, signing, scanning, converting, all of them. And once integrity is compromised, it's exponentially more complicated to fully authenticate that statement. It's not impossible, just much more complex and time-consuming. So back to the trivia questions. We know the US requires students to prove financial capacity during the visa application process. What about these other top host countries? Yep, all of them. It's remarkable how equally vague the requirement is across destinations. The common denominator seems to imply that visa holders should not burden domestic resources, which is reasonable. As we know, some host countries are more aggressive than others in that regard. And some host countries have been experimenting with different approaches to address the issue. So which host country requires a blocked account, namely money deposited in advance and held in sort of an escrow account? Germany. For several years, Sperconto has been in place to cover basic living expenses like rent, utilities, food, groceries, and health insurance. This year's figures for non-EU student visa applicants, €11,094, where monthly withdrawals are limited to €992. If I were a gambling girl, I'd say there's a distinct possibility that other host countries are considering similar approach. Who knows? So question number 7. In the latest edition of Open Doors, what percentage of students cited personal and family funds as their primary source of funding their study abroad experience in the U.S.? Answer, 51.5%. That's down considerably, especially when considering the figure for undergrads was 82.5% in 2023. Interestingly, 10 years ago in 2016, 60% of students cited personal and family resources as their primary source of funding. As we know, it's a dynamic space, particularly when home governments like Saudi Arabia a few years ago invest hugely in study abroad. Bottom line, though, is that a good portion of the budgetary burden is likely to fall on families, who tend to prove financial capacity with bank statements. So that's where FundsV focuses. Our goal is to replace requests to upload easily manipulated paper-based bank statements. We help elevate genuine applications by empowering students and their sponsors to authenticate their bank data through proven technology in global financial services. So students or sponsors may choose to share a one-time snapshot of recent bank data in one of two ways: by uploading an original digital PDF statement or by retrieving data from the bank source in real time. Which option do you think is more popular? At the moment, the answer is A. Students and sponsors prefer to upload data that they've previously retrieved. They're still not quite comfortable with the logging in option, though I think that's changing as consumers better understand the technology and prioritize convenience above almost all else. So here's a simple visual that shows a few options for verifying funds along with the corresponding levels of confidence. As we've established, there's a high risk of manipulation with images or scanned documents, which often leads to a red indicator. So because of that, we apply a few filters during FundsV's initial cursory review of all statements that come through. In order to properly analyze statements, the user needs to maintain the integrity of those bank-generated statements. If it's obvious the documents have been manipulated, then we disable the Submit button. For example, if the algorithm detects a discrepancy in the name field of a bank statement, there's no space between what should be the first name and the last name, for example, or maybe there's a number in the name field when the algorithm expects to see only alphabetical letters there. Another initial filter is the time period under review. If it extends beyond our 6-month window, we disable that Submit button, so those documents never even make it into our platform. As a consequence, the proportion of read or rejected documents is relatively low when compared with yellow or green indicators. Another reason we don't see many profiles fall into the red bucket, my guess is that unqualified candidates tend to self-select out of the process and simply abandon their applications. As you see here in the middle column, uploading original digital PDFs is better than image files, but there's still a vulnerability to PDFs, which is why FundsV sometimes returns yellow results when users choose that option. Yellow indicators should trigger a conversation between the candidate and the counselor. As a matter of fact, in our admin, we now give the counselor the opportunity to choose whether they want to include ending balances from those yellow statements on the student summary page. Counselors may also add notes that would appear on the summary as well. You'll also see that the admin may access every document that's been successfully uploaded to that student's funding profile. Here's a screenshot of that summary page. These new functions around yellow indicators represent a testament to the blend of high tech with human touch. FundsV produces somewhat obvious results that belong at both ends of the spectrum, red and green. However, that yellow space is crucial to accommodate explanations for anomalies. For example, the algorithm might detect that discrepancy in the name field that indicates a business rather than an individual. We need to allow for the possibility of the counselor recognizing that business as a sponsor for that student, and they've submitted an affidavit of support. At this point, FundsV doesn't know that, and we're not connected yet to every single source of funding, though we are working on it. Only the counselor knows that, and now they have the opportunity to explain it in the notes section, which appear on the student's summary page. Again, the goal is to take advantage of the best technology and couple it with human elements. I think about a small study released by Vera once from a recent institutional cohort for financial document verification. The majority of flagged cases were confirmed as genuine at 62%. Approximately 27% showed discrepancies, so it's just more evidence to take the time to dig deeper into these yellow buckets. So back to our trivia. Which of these two options, either PDFs or logins, produce higher confidence levels? B. The most efficient way for qualified students and sponsors to get to green is to minimize the window of vulnerability between the time they download their bank data and when they submit it. Retrieving data while in the FundsV iframe in real time is like taking a test in the presence of an in-person proctor, improving security and integrity. And that option almost always produces a green result for full speed ahead with that student's application. So how does that happen? FundsV is designed to be embedded within trusted CRMs. Entering a student into our platform triggers a unique URL where every source of funding is fed through that unique URL, whether from the students themselves or from their sponsor. The account holder first chooses their country, then their bank, to retrieve recent data in real time. We cover about 200 jurisdictions around the world with instant currency conversions on the summary page. Of course, reach out to me at cheryl@fundsv.com for a full demo. So what are the advantages of embedding the FundsV tool into trusted existing CRMs? The answer is all of the above. So let's take a minute to unpack these options. The whole point of FundsV is to empower qualified students to elevate their applications. They're eager to rise above the noise, and this is one very effective way to do it. We minimize duplicate data entry for students and counselors, so there's less risk as we intentionally limit our exposure to personal details. There's no need for the campus to integrate yet another tech vendor because the campus may add FundsV to their current suite of services with an existing vendor. The bottom line is that FundsV vastly improves efficiency and integrity of the process so counselors can spend their precious time actually interacting with genuine applicants. So what led us to this unconventional model? How did we get here? What year was FundsV first used in commerce according to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office? 2006. Yes, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. As you can imagine, we were pretty bleeding edge back when we originally introduced the concept, but with a lot of strategic patience, we're very well positioned to serve the current and future needs of the international education sector globally. So it's nice to look back in the rear view every once in a while, but it's even more important to address what's next. 20 years is a very long time, and never say never, but I cannot imagine a time when FundsV will become a globally recognized payment processor. And at some point, maybe 5 years down the line, we might expand into other verticals that require proof of funding, perhaps cross-border real estate transactions. For now, we're laser focused on this very niche component to advance global student mobility. Continuous improvement has been built into FundsV's DNA. We're working on integrating other APIs to accommodate other sources of funding that go beyond bank data, like loans, government sponsorship, university funding, and some of those decisions are largely driven by what sources host governments recognize. For example, host governments may eventually recognize central bank digital currencies. It's not crypto, it's actually supported by governments through their central banks, like the Federal Reserve Bank in the US or the Reserve Bank of India. Most countries fall into the research, pilot, or proof of concept stage at the moment. So one trivia question for you is, which countries have actually launched their central bank digital currency? Nigeria back in 2021. And what's the name of Nigeria's digital currency? The e-Naira. And there are only 2 other countries that have fully launched their digital currencies. Jamaica in 2023 with their Jam Dex, and the Bahamas in 2017. Who knows the name of their digital currency? The sand dollar. Not kidding. Its abbreviation is BS. I'd say the more interesting question here, though, is which countries fall at the other end of the spectrum? Who abandoned their efforts to pursue a central bank digital currency? Any guesses? It's a longer list. Norway, Denmark, Finland, Kenya, the Philippines, Fiji, Singapore, Ecuador, and Curacao. Not surprisingly, the United States' history in digital currency is complicated. In 2020, the Feds canceled its original digital dollar initiative, then explored Project Hamilton, which was a multi-year research collaboration between the Boston Fed and MIT's Digital Currency Initiative. Now, the 2025 Genius Act seems to focus on regulating private stablecoins, reflecting a push-pull between a government-backed digital currency and private digital asset innovation. Stay tuned. Global financial services is at a pretty dynamic phase right now in terms of what's next. All options present their own inherent risks, which leads to the next question. Which particular paper currency is most counterfeited globally? The US dollar. Not surprisingly, the $100 note is most popular outside the United States, while the $20 bill is most counterfeited domestically. So which US bills were discounted and phased out of circulation in 1969? High denomination notes between $500 and $10,000 are still legal tender, but have not been printed in the US since 1945. Another question about counterfeits? The 500 euro note earned what nickname due to its high value and implications of criminal misuse? Bin Laden. Apparently, the note was rumored to exist, but rarely seen by the general public. The European Central Bank stopped issuing 500 euro notes in 2019. Here's an easy one for you. Which US denomination features Alexander Hamilton's portrait on the front? Of course, Hamilton was a founding father who served as the first US Secretary of the Treasury from 1789 to 1795 under the presidency of George Washington. Hamilton appears on the US $10 bill. So lastly, which organization leads international efforts to combat money laundering and terrorist financing? The Financial Action Task Force, established in 1989, based in Paris. They certainly have their work cut out for them, as digitization of finances adds new layers of complexity, but also presents opportunities to boost transparency, efficiency, and integrity. And that's really how we frame our work at FundsV. In this very challenging environment, let's lean into proven technologies that help us ultimately advance global mobility of qualified students. This tool empowers genuine candidates to elevate their applications by authenticating their bank data. In my mind, there's such an inevitability to this kind of funds verification tool. Of course, I'm happy to continue the conversation. Go to fundsv.com, follow us on LinkedIn for the very latest updates. Thanks for watching.